Let's now take you back to our lead story where we told you that President Muhammadu Buhari conveyed to the National Assembly his decision to decline assent to 5 bills. Now, one of them is the Digital Rights and Freedom Bill. And at this point, we have law and technology expert Dr. Nnenna Ifeanyi-Ajufo joining us to talk more about this. Good evening to you and thank you for joining us on TVC News at 7. Nigerians just had their dream of having internet freedom dashed. What are the consequences?
Good evening. I would say that considering that Nigeria is the most populous nation in Africa, purportedly the giant of Africa, I think this sets us back. I think it was an opportunity for Nigeria to set an example, particularly in relation to the protection of digital rights. Now, when you talk about digital rights, you're talking about the protection of rights online. The rights which people have offline as human rights should also be protected online. We're talking about rights to freedom of speech, right to freedom of information, rights to privacy. And I think this sets us back in terms of setting an example. If you also think about how Nigeria is focused on fighting cybercrime, curbing cybercrime, it's important that people are aware that their rights are certain that their rights will be protected online in the same way it is protected offline.
And putting in mind that Nigeria doesn't even have a data protection law, meaning that whatever personal data of Nigerians got by any government institution cannot be guaranteed of protection. Absolutely. What is the implication of this as well?
Absolutely. But I think we should also put ourselves in the shoes of the president. If we have the data protection bill, we have the freedom of information bill, we have the cybercrime act, I think he's just trying to prevent where you duplicate laws. So if the data protection bill is passed into law, for example, you will find that certain things that are actually in the data rights bill will be duplicated. So that is just the problem with the bill. I think to an extent, while I would take sides on both sides, I think to an extent the bill lacks some conceptual clarity, and I think it's not necessarily saying he would not assent to the bill, but I think the bill needs to be revised.
So in doing the revision, what would you expect the lawmakers to put into it?
Particularly in the first place, I think we need to clarify what privacy rights are. What are we giving rights to, and to what extent are those rights being given? For example, when you say the government can preclude the right to privacy based on legitimate purposes, and even the surveillance entity, you are not clear as to what anyone can do. Particularly if you also look at Section 18, it talks about the whistleblower. Now you find that it's also unclear in relation to that. I think so many other aspects, censorship, website blocking, you can't necessarily say that you can't block a website where the website is infringing copyright. Now you're necessarily giving rights and then you're taking back the rights. So many aspects of the bill, it talks about succession rights. We're not really clear about what exactly all this are aimed at. So I think certain aspects need to be revised. Again, in terms of anonymity, we have to be careful what we give rights to. If you're giving rights to anonymity, you know that traditionally it's difficult for anyone to exist anonymously. So if you're giving those rights online, you must think about law enforcement, you must think about mutual legal assistance, you must think about the legal framework within which you're giving those rights.
Dr. Nnenna Ifeanyi-Ajufo, law and technology expert who joined us from Ghana, is saying that a lot needs to be put into the Digital Rights and Freedom Bill to make it more robust and all-encompassing. Thank you for your time on TVC News at 7.